Hello, and welcome to Broads and Books. I'm Erin.
And I'm Amy, and this is episode...
It's a toughie.
episode 111, otherwise known as 111.
Yep.
I don't know, for some reason those three ones together just
it
really threw me.
You know what? I was kind of laughing in my head, and then I realized,
Like,
my brain's not getting there either.
11D1?
11D1.
Is 11D1 a thing? That's it. That's what it is. The title of our episode is Never Gonna Give You Up.
Never gonna give you up.
Never gonna give you up.
Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run around and desert you. Oh, yeah. Obviously, we're never giving you up, listeners.
Never.
It's 111.
And you can't give us up even after that terrible rendition.
No, yeah. We probably are supposed to pay for that, but we're not
That's
gonna.
all right. That's all right.
Turn us in. I dare
Rick
you.
Astley would allow this. He would allow it.
He would. So this song has been in my head, and it seemed like the perfect theme because obsessions, unhealthy relationships.
Yeah.
As catchy as the song is, it's also scary.
Super scary.
So scary.
In the wrong hands, this becomes a threat. A real bad threat.
I think even in the right hands.
Yeah, that's true.
This is still a threat and scary. I
am happy, though, you mentioned that this has been in your head because you saw it at a show choir competition.
I did.
For teenagers.
It was, so Evan School put on a concert, and they allow they do the show choir and the other choirs. It's a choir concert. And then they allow some of the seniors to do like duets or solos or whatever. And we got rickrolled,
which
as
is
you
fantastic.
said, yes, by a senior who started by singing like an Italian opera song, and then record scratch went directly into this song, sang the whole thing while dancing on stage, and I was impressed, and a little bit terrified. I think.
Sure, that's the right reaction.
Yeah, and also just impressed with the moxie.
Yes. And that a 17-year-old knows who Rick Astley is. That makes me happy.
Yeah. That's his song is enduring. And
Absolutely.
I think when he was a one-hit wonder, he thought, I don't know if I'll ever be relevant again.
Don't worry, Rick. Us, the people of the world, we're never going to give you up.
We're never going to give you up.
Never going to give you up.
Never. And I'm sorry, listeners, for one thing about this, and it's an earworm.
Yeah,
it is
too
impossible.
Bad. Yeah, even just
reading
reading the title of this, it's now in your head for the next couple of weeks. So we apologize for that.
You should just get it on your Spotify list. Get it out of your system.
Take
it head on. Head on is the way to deal with this. Just take it head on.
Grit your teeth and get on through.
Get through it.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
So, as we said, this song is by Rick Astley. Do you think it would be perceived differently if it had been released by a woman?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, first of all, it never would be released by a woman.
Yeah, good call.
Because if a woman put this in, they'd be like, "You're a psycho.
Yeah.
You are a stage 5 player."
And this was 1987, the Fatal Attraction era.
Yeah.
So, they would have been like, okay, no.
Are you trying to boil a bunny?
Exactly.
Because I don't think it's funny.
Right.
Yeah, they would not have liked it. And it would not become a cult hit. It would become like the theme for the movie about the serial killer that Charlize Theron was in. Like, that's what it would be. It would never
Right.
It would never be this great, catchy thing. And that lady's face would not be on T-shirts with the 80s writing and everybody be thinking it's cool.
Yeah.
They'd be like, that is
That is
depressing and
intense.
scary. That's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird.
You're right. It would be the soundtrack for every scary female on the cinematic screen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would just never work the other
That's a
way.
bummer.
Because of society. The words don't change. The meaning doesn't change. That guy's a psycho.
Yeah.
Let's not lose
But
it.
as we know, we've talked about, like, if guys express even a little bit of effort, oh my God.
Best thing ever.
How sweet are they?
So great.
That's so wonderful.
I mean, that's why it took so long to get laws for stalking.
Yeah.
Because people were just like, he likes you a
He
lot.
likes you. Oh, he's picking you up all the time. He likes you.
He showed up in your house. That's amazing.
Oh, that's so sweet. He just really, really digs you.
He wanted to be there when you got home. That's so nice.
Yeah. Oh, he won't leave you alone. You got to give him a chance.
You got to give him a chance. So, as a theme, that's why I loved it, because unhealthy attachment.
Totally
the whole
unhealthy.
song's about that.
Yes.
But that's also why it would never be released by a female, because we would get put in that. And maybe also we wouldn't write it.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, we'd probably be like, this seems excessive, right? I don't.
Be like, I'd be freaked out if a dude said this to me.
Or as a female, we understand that we probably need to add caveats, like never going to give you up unless.
Yeah. Unless I get caught by the police.
Yeah, never going to give you up unless I find out you murder people.
Right.
Never going to give you up unless you sneak into my house. Never going to give you up. You know, there's things that.
Yeah.
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 Well, we're kind of talking about that, about weird relationship things that we romanticize. Is there a relationship or dating action that's romanticized in society that is an absolute no for you? Like, absolutely not.
All of them, pretty much. I think, I've gone on record as being sort of anti-romance. All of the signs of romance, all of the flowers, the chivalry, all of the things. I think it's fake. I think it sucks. I don't want any part of it. I also have mentioned that I just personally have never been interested in marriage, in having kids, all of the things that relationships and dating are supposed to lead to. Okay. But so the fact that I don't like any of that, I also have a very special place reserved in hell for all proposals. And I mean wedding proposals. I mean promposals, which thankfully was not a thing when we were kids.
What is that?
That is terrible.
It's awful.
So bad.
So
I don't like the
bad.
fact that all the proposals are men making a little bit of effort to show how much they want the girl. And then the girl is like, okay, I guess. And then off they go.
You're put in a position you can't say no.
Yeah.
It's not really a proposal because there's no option for you
and
to
it's
not
usually
do it.
public. And so, you're embarrassed if you don't.
100%.
Yeah.
I think you hit on something really important, which is the promposal, which has become a thing. And
I'm just imagining me as a 16 or 17-year-old, if someone had done, and listen, I didn't date a lot in high school. Okay. Let's be clear on this. I was very terrified by the idea of dating.
Yeah.
Just generally. I was terrified by most people.
Fair.
For everything.
Fair.
If in that terror I had been given a promposal of some kind, I don't think I would have showed my face. I think I would have considered running away for the hills, like, putting a knapsack together on a stick and just running and riding the rails, just going off into the wilderness because so gross and scary.
Yeah.
And then, you have to agree to it and then you have to do it.
And then you have to do the thing. No. Yeah, absolutely.
And you and I have talked about too that proposals are such a big deal because then it feels like that's the last thing that guys have to do. They don't have to do anything else.
Right. And it's another thing that I feel like falls into sort of this Instagram life. Like you want to be able to take pictures and tell me how he proposed. Like it's this big thing. And it's like, well, truthfully, shouldn't that be something that's sort of just between the two of you? Like, hey, this is a conversation. Like nobody wants to know how you guys decided on your couch at Homemakers.
No interest.
And I don't mean to sound unromantic, but this is kind of the same thing. It's actually a business transaction in a lot of ways.
And you've probably talked about this leading up to this very public, Instagrammable thing.
Yeah.
So it's so fake. It's so stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have a question for you, Erin. Same question, in fact. Are there actions, relationship, dating actions, romanticized, but also a hard pass for you?
Yeah, it's very similar.
Okay.
And for me, it's just, it's this very public declarations that are on Facebook. Like, I love this guy and here's why. Or, I can't do that. Like, I get really weirded out. I get really uncomfortable. Even when I read someone else's, it makes me feel weird and uncomfortable. And I think it's because it feels like voyeuristic or something. Like I'm watching something I'm not supposed to. And I think also it makes me feel that way in that context because it feels so performative and so... It always makes me feel like you're trying to cover something up, even if you're not. You could have a great relationship. I don't know. It just feels very weird.
I feel the exact same way where I just feel I don't trust it. I don't trust what I'm seeing and reading. Like, you may feel that way, but are you just doing this because you had a fight last night and you need to somehow smooth the waters or something like that? Like, I don't trust it.
I just don't need I just don't need to do it, I guess. And it makes me very uncomfortable. And it's similar in your, the ones prior to social media made me uncomfortable too. Like the public being obvious, like a promposal, I would have lost my mind.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have even thought it was for me. There's a high chance I would have just walked away.
I would have just been looking around like, I got to get out of here because something big is happening and it's not for me.
Why? What is this?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, that may speak to, our self-esteem at the time, but... Also,
I would hope that, it would be clear that that's not, something that you should do for me ever. Don't do that.
No,
I need to know certain things. For my like anxiety, I need to know how certain things are going to go. I don't love, like, I'm just not good with attention like that. And so it's an uncomfortable thing. It doesn't make me feel endeared to you. It doesn't make me feel like we have this great relationship. It makes me feel like I'm showboating and I'm trying to
I know how you love to showboat.
Yeah, and I'm trying to cover something up with my showboating peacock feathers, and I don't like it. I don't like it.
Oh, Erin, that's what I always say. What a showboater. She showboats all the time.
Showboating around.
Peacocking around.
Just get my feathers out and showboating. It's just not right. Oh, my God.
I absolutely agree with everything you said. I also am just not a big fan of surprises, and those kinds of things are like surprising, and no, I don't like that at all. I want to be able to plan, and again, this is indicative of who I am, but I need to plan things.
I think also as I've gotten older, it's one of those things that I've come to learn more about myself, because society does such a good job, right, of telling us that we should like these things, or this is the way you should accept love. And I've discovered, and I can give voice to things that I appreciate more, which and I need those situations more than I need some kind of public declaration. Like, I just need you to be there for me, and not in an overpowering way, but just when I need you for certain things, like, and you know that, and you're there, and that's how it needs to be.
And I have a real need to be really seen, to be understood and to seen, and all of that stuff feels like it could be for any woman, it could be for any person. Whereas if you actually knew me, if you knew what I needed and wanted, you would know, first, I don't want any of that bullshit, and second, then you might be able to connect with me in the way that we both need.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. I need to feel seen, and if you're making a public declaration, you didn't see me.
Nope, sure didn't.
You just didn't.
You're seeing who you want to see.
And I might decide that you're a stalker.
Very true.
Which brings me to a question for you.
Oh, let's hear it.
Do you think that you would make a good stalker?
I went yes and no on this.
Okay.
And I'm thinking specifically of physically stalking, like following someone around.
Right. Okay. Yes.
Not like cyber stalking or even the light stalking that one does on Google.
Okay.
No. I'm talking.
We're calling that light stalking. It's just light stalking.
Just light, If we're talking physical stalking, I think that what's working for me and what would go well is my age. Because you and I have talked about, we are invisible now. We could go around in the world and no one is going to take a second look at us.
Nope.
So I could slip in and out of places and follow whoever I am stalking quite easily.
Yes, that's very true.
Right.
We've said it. We make great private investigators now.
Yes. Now, on the negative side is the fact of my physical body, in which I am quite klutzy. I am very awkward.
Okay.
I'm distracted easily. I'm not going to be able to keep my focus on whoever I'm stalking.
There is that. Yeah. Yeah, you do have to kind of have laser focus.
Yeah, and I don't think I'm going to have that laser focus. Plus, because I'm out in the world, I'm going to want to just go home.
Yeah.
I'm going to want to go watch whatever show I've been watching. And it's going to be way more entertaining than whoever I'm stalking.
That's true.
So really, I think it's my own limitations of attention and my desire for routine, as well as a lack of physical coordination, that is going to make me not a great stalker.
I also think you forgot that your bladder's not going to allow you to
Oh my
do
God,
this.
you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, where are you going to pee when you're out stalking?
Yeah, the minute I have to go to the bathroom, it's over. The stalking is done. Yeah.
Because I am pushing people out the way to find a public bathroom.
Yeah, that's it. And then I'm just like, well, I lost it. I'm going home.
You're absolutely right. Only until we've redesigned the human body, as we talked about last episode.
Yes.
Can we do that? Yeah.
And then maybe we could take that off and work on the other things to get you to be a good stalker.
That also rules out any sort of stakeout.
I know.
Right?
I have thought
like if we were talking about being investigators because we are invisible, we're going to have to, bring a porta potty or something with us on a stakeout.
Yeah, because otherwise, or we're going to have to just not drink anything that day, like in preparation.
That's still not going to work because then I get nervous.
True.
And then the bladder's like, hey, you got nothing in here, but I'm going to make it feel like you got to pee.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I know.
Maybe the best is like a depends situation.
There you go. We could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that might feel good. It might feel like...
might feel really weird or it might feel good. We don't know. But in that situation, if we were being paid and we had to get the information, I feel like we could power through.
That's a good point. If we are thinking about customer service, then we could power through.
Yes, because there is nothing that I like more than succeeding at my job. So
even if it's denying your bodily needs.
Even if I have to wear a diaper.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And listen, we could charge it as an expense. Be like, for excellent investigative skills.
Well, really, what should happen is that we probably need to do a deep dive prior to the first stakeout, and we need to try all of the different kinds of adult underwear.
Yeah.
We need to try the ones that they advertise that are supposed to be nice looking. We need to so that we can make sure we're getting the best product.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's all a work expense.
It's all a work expense. Be like, listen, this is just research.
Yeah, it's just part of it.
Yeah.
It's just part of
this is stalking 101.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You want me to get this information? Let me do it my way. Okay. We're going to end up at the same spot. So,
and that's a good point, because if I'm with you, I won't be distracted as easily, so I could focus better.
Yeah.
And if we've got the peeing situation down, okay, I'm back to, we're going to be investigators. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
Because we're invisible.
Yeah. Yep. No,
because we're in our
perfect.
40s,
yeah.
No one sees us.
Yeah.
And we can take that to our advantage.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the key too, is that we would be good at stalking for a purpose. If I'm just stalking someone because I want to be with them, no.
That's too much effort.
I'm not going to do that.
No.
I'm not going to do it. I'll be like, cool, I'm at home when you're done.
Right.
I mean, what?
Yeah, I don't care whatever you get up to.
Yeah.
Like, just whatever you get up to, I don't care. Just don't bring
You're
it
out
to
showboating.
me.
I don't care. I'm at home.
You're showing off your feathers like a peacock. You do your thing, and then I'll be at home.
I'm at home peeing and watching TV.
Peeing and watching TV and trying to figure out how to change my bladder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Testing all the adult
important
diapers.
Work.
Yeah.
Important work.
I was going to try and figure out how to transition from adult diapers to my fiction pick, and there really is no transition.
No, it feels just like a hard pivot
situation. I wouldn't want to
insult
insult this author with that.
Right.
Because we know this author for my fiction pick.
Okay.
Her name is Celia Lasky. And she wrote Under the Rainbow. And we talked to her a while back. She is the one who waxed poetic about Taco Bell as her pop culture pick, and it just sent us into...
It was delightful.
It was wonderful.
No one had ever gone that route,
No.
and I was like, I don't know why.
Was it quesarita that she loved so much? Was that
Yeah, is that what it was? Yeah, it was
Something
two
like
things
that.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
I was like, what? And she's like, I get them all the time.
Yeah, she was talking about how she and her wife just are ordering it all the time,
time.
and that's their pop culture. And it was like, perfect.
I love that.
Yeah.
I hadn't considered it, but...
So because we love Celia Lasky, we got an early look at her next book, which is another novel, and it's called So Happy for You. Comes out in June.
That title.
Yeah. So we've got two friends, Robin and Ellie, and they've been friends since childhood. But over time, they've grown apart, as friends do. Partly because, though, of an obsessive interest of Ellie's. And it's good to mention that we are in sort of an alternate reality where divorce rates have jumped so high, like up to the high 70%, and birth rates so low that the government has intervened.
Oh.
And they're pushing marriage hardcore.
Okay.
Like you're seeing tax and money benefits, but you're also seeing like films, movies, everything, all about happy marriages and all really pushing like marriage is the end all be all.
Okay.
And you got to commit and all that kind of stuff. And as part of that, because, of course, girls are bearing a lot of the brunt of this. They're told that nothing else matters except marriage. And as part of this, though, all sorts of weird superstitions and behaviors have taken hold, like sacrificing a rabbit to ensure a long and healthy marriage.
Oh.
Or, in the darker corners of the internet, maybe even rumors of murder. So, Robin and Ellie meet one night. Ellie's engaged, and she wants Robin to be her maid of honor. While this has been happening, by the way, Robin has been very anti-marriage. She and her girlfriend have been together for a long time. She's happy, but she wants nothing to do with marriage. And in fact, as part of her postgraduate work, she's been researching some of these rituals and superstitions in the wedding industry. So she does not want to do this, but as often happens in friendships, okay, great, yeah, let's do it. She does. Even as the build up to the wedding gets weirder and weirder, and Ellie gets more and more obsessive, even scary, until finally it's the wedding weekend and Robin is convinced Ellie is trying to kill her.
Oh.
This is funny. This is dark. It's super awkward. It's for anyone who's been forced to go to a wedding they don't want to go to, especially if you have to participate in a wedding you don't want to participate in.
Wow.
So really everyone in the world.
Yeah.
That's who this is for.
Everyone. Yeah.
I chose it for the scene, and I can't reveal much more than that because there's so many, wonderful twists and stuff like that.
It already sounds amazing.
I chose it for this theme because I think it takes our current obsession with weddings and the insane wedding industry to a hilarious and scary new height. And it takes on the trope of the bridezilla, right? And just runs with it. There's unhealthy obsessions on the part of Ellie, almost possessed. What's great, though, is we see why. Like, we understand what's happening. We understand the forces at play behind these obsessions. And we also see why the friendship has been important in the past and why it might be worth keeping and why Robin keeps going. So we got female friendships, wedding drama, dark humor, maybe even murder.
Everything you want.
Yeah. I imagine Celia Lasky was eating some quesadillas
I
while
hope
she wrote
so.
this.
I hope so.
And enjoying herself thoroughly
Yes.
as she got to get real weird.
It sounds like it, but it sounds great. I love all of that. Well, the book that I'm brought this week is pretty front list. It was just published in February 2022. It's new. It's kind of in this category, this new one that's emerging called social horror. Ooh. Where it's kind of like based on things that are happening in society and, and then playing on that like a psychological thriller.
Okay.
But, really, I guess, narrowing that theme a little bit. It's called Cherish Farah by Bethany C. Morrow. And this is the story of these two friends. Farah's in high school and her best friend is Cherish, and they live in a very wealthy area and attend private school. And they have a really deep, very special friendship because they are the only Black girls in this country club community.
Oh.
However, their home lives are very, very, very different. Cherish was adopted at birth by a very wealthy, popular white family.
Oh, boy.
And Farah, on the other hand, is the only Black girl with Black parents. So as much as they're great friends, there are some big divides in their relationship that they can't quite understand. And Farah's parents are also wealthy, but just not at the level of Cherish's. They just have money upon money upon money, which is why Farah often refers to Cherish as WGS, or white girl spoiled, because her parents are able to give her whatever she wants, whenever she wants, without any worries. So it opens up and we find out that Farah's parents are facing a foreclosure in their house due to a job loss in the family. And so Farah sees this as an opportunity. She realizes that her family might have to move away from the area for a different job. And she sees this as an opportunity to maybe get to stay with Cherish to finish out high school and to be intimately, involved in their relationship, like take the bond even deeper. And she also is kind of deciding to do it because she has this idea that she sort of deserves the life that Cherish has, maybe more than Cherish does. Okay. And Farah has this idea that she's kind of a puppet master. Like she's able to control Cherish because she doesn't have to think about anything too deeply because everything's provided for her. So she thinks this whole time in their relationship, she's been pulling the strings. And I will tell you that their relationship is absolutely bananas. It is the weirdest, darkest, unhealthy in a lot of ways, but also very believable. I think especially for females that have deep friendships, you can see sometimes, especially in younger relationships, how that can ebb and flow between healthy and unhealthy and codependent and independent. So they do have this very, very deep bond that is very true, but they both exploit it for their own purposes. Oh. And we're constantly, as the reader, you're going kind of back and forth on who you think is really in charge or what's happening. So the fate of Farah and her future living situation basically go off the rails as she realizes that Cherish and maybe Cherish's family have different motives that she doesn't understand. And that's where I'll leave it because I can't tell you anything else except to say it's creepy and it's twisty and it's dark and it's weird and it's like everything you want it to be. And it's incredibly propulsive. Like I read it so fast because I just kept thinking, what is happening? I have to know. And it's one of those great books where no one is particularly likable, but also it makes you think, but what do people deserve? Like just if someone's not likable, does that mean that these things are okay? So plays a lot on that. Obviously, I picked it for this theme because their bond is super unhealthy, but also relentless. Like they won't let each other be. And they've lost their sense of self. And they're like one unit in a way that is not allowing them to grow any further. They're operating as one unit without ever recognizing their individuality anymore. I mean, I could see a scene in this book where these two sing this song to each other. They sing Never Gonna Give You Up. I could see that happening. Ooh. Because it's that, and that it would be creepy as that song can be.
Yeah. Singing this song to someone would be very creepy, no matter who that someone is.
Right.
Huh.
That's how I always pictured this song being sung, and it's always been kind of
But I bet some people don't get the creepy factor. Like, they think that it's romantic in some way.
Yeah, you know, it was probably like someone's wedding song.
I was just thinking that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like how Every Breath You Take, like the super creepy song from The Police, like tons of people use it in their wedding and don't really see it. And like Sting once said, like, the song is fucked.
Yeah. I was thinking of the Shania Twain one, like, so glad we made it. Like, it's all about how they had this terrible relationship and now they're together. And I'm like, is this what you want at your wedding?
No, this is not good.
You guys fought a lot during the wedding planning?
Okay. Great.
All right. Well, so you made it. So glad you made it. Yay.
What happens now?
Yeah. Divorce.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So creepy, crazy, but also super interesting. Really fun in a lot of ways. And I would guess I cannot believe that this won't be adapted because it's so
I bet.
Weird. But it would be so powerful on screen too, I think.
Excellent. I like the idea of, I mean, we've talked a lot about like likability and unlikability, but especially when it comes to obsession. Because like you said, like if a woman sang this song about obsession, or not even about obsession, but about bordering on obsession, she would be scary and unlikable because she's obsessed.
Yes. Yeah. And they're both, it takes that unlikable character to a whole new level because there's really no one to root for. Mm-hmm. You're just sort of weirded out all the way through. And I think that that's almost more accurate to situations. I mean, I think our minds want to create a hero all the time or someone we want to root for when sometimes there just isn't anyone to root for.
No.
Like it's just weird and you all need to stop. Stop showboating. Put your feathers away.
That's a really good point. In my book, they're like the main person that you're supposed to identify with, Robin, like she can get real annoying because like when she's interacting with people that don't share the same opinions as her, like she takes it upon herself to try and convince them, even knowing like that's not going to work. It's not going to change. Right. Like someone starts going off about vaccines causing, autism and stuff. So she goes to a bookstore to buy her books to try and change her mind and brings it back to the woman. The woman's like, what the I'm not reading this. What are you doing? And so as you're watching this, you're like, oh, honey, come on now.
No.
I want to root for you, but stop this.
I also feel like that's another thing that comes with like later as you're getting older as an adult is you realize that like you don't have to change everyone's mind. Mm-mm. Some people are just going to have different views and it's not, I think when you're younger, you have this altruistic idea that that's inauthentic if you don't say something or you don't speak out when in reality, it's just an exercise in futility for everyone. So save your breath.
Yeah.
Because for something fun. Like swimming or scuba diving.
Or peacocking.
Peacocking and showboating with people who want to see it. Exactly. You have no idea how much breath it takes to peacock.
That's right. I was telling you before this that I went to a bar last night for the first time in a long time.
You did.
I felt like a peacock just running around with my feathers like, look at me. I got a drink. There's music going on. Here we go.
I am not in my house.
Yeah, that's where I was at. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm living my best life right now.
Yes. That's when you know you made a good decision to like that. Okay, I was ready because if I feel good, then that means I should have done this. Because too many times you can go and be like, I knew I shouldn't have come.
There's been so many times. But they chose a bar that I like. It was, my fellas, like it was just wonderful.
Very nice.
Peacocking away.
Peacocking and showboating.
Oh boy. So for other genre pick.
Yes.
I got a doozy for you. Ooh. But this is an important one.
Okay.
It's a little hard. Okay. But I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest because the title is Men Who Hate Women. From incels to pickup artists, the truth about extreme misogyny and how it affects us all. From Laura Bates from 2020. Oof. So hang in there, everyone. Need to tell you about this. Mm-hmm. Short summary is that Laura Bates researches and infiltrates the manosphere. And we're talking a massive web of online groups that are like your men's rights activists, your pickup artists, your trolls, your incels, which if you don't know, they call themselves incels. They're involuntarily celibate because they feel like, we owe them sex. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yes. Whole subgroup of men who have not found what they're seeking in the romantic world.
Okay.
And it is women's fault, so they are calling themselves involuntarily celibate because we won't give it up to them.
Oh, okay. It took me a minute to get there, and now I'm there, and I can see why it's illogical on every level.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they are dangerous, and I'll tell you more about this.
Yeah, I can see where that's going.
So these are men that are in some way vulnerable, right? And they are quickly radicalized by dark corners of the web into just straight up women haters. And some of them go on to commit mass murders and terrorist acts because they've been radicalized and because they now hate women so badly, and women are the source of all terrible things.
Yes.
So the book looks at the movement as a whole and at individual groups, each with different philosophies and actions, but all with, us, the common enemy. And she looks at what stories are being told in these groups and how they're attracting men, how they're grooming boys and young women, and how they're spreading into media and government. And what really struck me is she spends a lot of time in these chat rooms, in these groups, posing as a man, and to really try and get insight into what's happening, to get beyond the rhetoric, to get beyond just all the shit that's being said. And talking to men that are in it, but then also talking to men who got out.
Oh,
and men who have discovered, found, oh man, that was a real bad left turn, and here I am, and now I'm trying to change things.
Okay. All right.
Like I said, this is intense. It's scary, but it's also necessary to understand what's happening right now in terms of the cultural backlash against women and women's rights, abortion rights, just everything in our political sphere in some way relates to this.
Okay.
And I chose it for this theme because I think ultimately these groups start with because the men in them are obsessed with women. They're obsessed with trying to get women, and then they become obsessed with punishing women for some sort of perceived rejection. They're obsessed with the idea that we basically owe them, that women are owed to them, and that we exist for their benefit. And it sounds super antiquated. You wouldn't think that this is taking hold, but it absolutely is. The stuff she's finding in these groups are parroting and doubling down on every terrible idea that's ever been said about women. It's just bringing it right back into the world. And it's attractive because I think if you look at some of the roots of racism and xenophobia, people want someone else to point to for the problems in the world. They want to be able to look at themselves as higher than other people.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
So these men and boys, they may be vulnerable or hurting in some way. And they feel like, they want to feel like they're better than somebody. And here we are. We're easy targets. So they're owed better. Their life sucks because of us. So boom, we're going to go out and kill people. It's deeply unhealthy.
Yeah.
On a personal level, but also on a societal level. It is nice to know that some people have given this up.
Right.
And
Yeah.
on.
That was a surprise to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really fascinating, deeply troubling, but also it really does shed a lot of light on the last 5-10 years and what's going on in the world, and some of the things that we're seeing, just in congressional hearings like this week's, confirmation hearings, just the inanity that is coming out of people's mouths. A lot of it can be related to this.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is deep.
It is
That's heavy, but necessary.
Yes. And there's a lot of peacocking of those men out on the Reddit subgroups.
Yeah. What a place.
It's bad news. Oh. And as I said, reading it can be a very uncomfortable experience. If you kind of step back, it's fine. But every once in a while, I'll be like, this is terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. Did it take you a long time to read it? Did you have to take it in sections?
Yeah, take it in sections. Yeah, for sure.
Makes sense. Okay. I mean, it sounds really interesting, and what a way to immerse yourself and do it. But yeah, I can see why.
And it reminds me when we talked to A.E. Osworth.
Yeah.
They were talking about how they kind of delved into the manosphere to get that collective voice that they used for We Are Watching Eliza Bright. And a lot of it comes from these groups. And they were talking in our interview with them about like, yeah, that was intense, like coming into these groups. And that's what Laura Bates does. She really dug into this for years, which
had to be so,
can you imagine?
No,
Yeah.
like the damage to her.
Seriously.
I just feel like it's hard enough to read it, but then imagine researching it and immersing yourself in that all the time.
Yeah.
That had to be so draining.
I hope she's seeing a counselor for her mental health because
Me too.
Yeah.
I hope she's doing a lot of self-recovery and care after that because wow. Whew.
And I hope she never talks to a man ever again.
Ever again.
Nope. Again.
Done. Well, I decided, why not give the people what they want?
Oh.
Another true crime book.
Ah! Yes, yes, yes.
So this one is called The Other Dr. Gilmer. 2 Men, a Murder, and an Unlikely Fight for Justice by Benjamin Gilmer. This was published March 2022, and this is a weird one. I will tell you that. This is the story of 2 Dr. Gilmers that end up both practicing out of the same small rural town in North Carolina, but not at the same time. The first Dr. Gilmer, Vince, leaves the practice after he murders his father and leaves him in a ditch, and then returns to work for a few days before he's caught. During this time, the other Dr. Gilmer, Benjamin, is completing his residency in medical training, and about 10 years into the first Dr. Gilmer's sentence, interviews at this rural clinic and finds out about the other Dr. Gilmer. They're not related. The name is spelled the exact same way. All of it, right? Super weird. He ends up taking the job. And from there, things get weird because patients obviously are a little bit weirded out because it is the same name. He's saying it's not. But also, everyone in the town had nothing but wonderful things to say about the first Dr. Gilmer. They're all still 10 years later trying to figure out what happened. Like, why did this murder even happen? What happened to this guy? Because he was so kind and so wonderful. And, he dealt with so many of the problems that face really small rural areas in terms of medical care. He would do house calls. He purposely did hours outside of normal daytime so that, blue collar workers were able to come and get the care that they needed. Nice. He did Saturday clinics. He would frequently, deliver prescriptions to people, whatever he needed to do. So people had a lot of really kind, wonderful things to say about him. So when Dr. Ben Gilmer takes over, it seems when you're reading it that he might have sort of used that as a coping mechanism to take the job, was kind of like putting this guy aside, like clearly he's a murderer. So then when he's faced with this idea that like we don't understand what happened, it kind of opens up his imagination to everything. Like, is this guy really like a psycho? Like, am I safe? Is my family safe? What have I done? Like, why did I come? Yeah. And he kind of goes down a deep rabbit hole where he's really getting deep into it and kind of freaking himself out. So as this obsession is growing, he ends up working with Sarah Koenig from This American Life.
Oh, yeah.
Pre-Serial, before she did the Adnan story. Because they're going to do a story about these 2 Dr. Gilmers, and the murder and all of that. And through this, he sort of gets a chance to visit Dr. Gilmer in prison and start speaking to him. And when he does that, he realizes there's something deeply wrong here. Like, there's a mental illness that has gone undiagnosed and no one's discussing it. And he's deteriorating and getting worse and worse and worse because he's not getting any care. And so he sort of becomes an advocate of saying, like, this is the reason and here's why. And, these are the signs, symptoms, all of these things. And he does a lot of like independent verification because he's aware that he might not be a reliable narrator in a lot of the ways because he's too deep. He takes the diagnosis, like doesn't say who it is, and has lots of different people review it. And most of them come to the same conclusion that he did. So it's a really interesting story about, to me, so many aspects of true crime. One, like this crazy, weird personal connection that you don't know this person, you're not related, but then you're working in the job. Yeah. And like, as much as we like to watch Dateline and we like to take in true crime, when you're really faced with it up close, that feeling of safety that is no longer there because you're dealing with something unknown. The second part that I love is that which happens a lot in crimes where people say, I don't understand. Like, they were a great person, or I never saw this coming, or I don't know what happened. They were great to me. a whole section of the book is really devoted to that idea that a lot of times we don't know what's going on, and we don't do a good job, especially in the American justice system, of taking the time to figure that out. It's very punitive and not rehabilitative. So, and then we hope that these people are going to be fine if they get out.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, in his case with the murder, he's serving a life sentence. He's not probably going to get out. But does that mean that he shouldn't have care, that we should allow him to deteriorate? So there's all of those kinds of questions going on. There's also this, I think, which is really interesting, kind of where the narrator goes, Dr. Gilmer, how deep he gets in to this obsession and to finding this out and helping him almost to the detriment of like his family and his practice. And I think that there's that intensity sometimes with the amount of true crime that we take in, or how interested we are, that sometimes it does sort of border on obsession. And that can be good in a lot of ways, because it can bring advocates to the front, and it can be damaging personally in a lot of ways, because it's not a healthy obsession to have. It's probably not a healthy way to spend time. It's a really, really interesting story. I think it's interesting, that this obsession drove him to find answers and to help this person, but also really examine himself as a person. Like, what are you secure and not secure with? Why did you take this job at a clinic with the same name? Like, why did you think that was a good idea? Wow. Yeah, it's interesting. It's really well done. I will say that I think I'll be interested if he maybe follows it up with some kind of sequel, because it felt like in some of the parts of the book, he hasn't entirely dealt with everything that he really happened. Like, he's still working through it, which I think is a very natural reaction to all of this. So I'll be interested to see if he gets further down the line with it, and, if any more comes to the surface, or he thinks.
That's a good point, because I imagine there was a bit of pressure to, let's tell the story now. Like, let's get it out there.
And when he was working with This American Life, they were kind of interested in a different aspect. And, when they were done, they were like, hey, it's your story. It's your information now. Like, you do with it what. And he couldn't let it go. Like, he was like, I want to keep doing this. I want to keep figuring out what's going on with him. And so he kept that relationship with Dr. Gilmer so he could visit him, so he could figure out, what was happening. It's a twist. I'll tell you that. It's got some twists in there, and it's a very personal story that illustrates a lot of the big picture problems with the American justice system. So,
got two thoughts. One, I think, you mentioned how, like, often we don't necessarily take the time to find out, like, what actually happened. I think that, especially because society is so obsessed with true crime now, we just want to know what happened, who did it, not necessarily like, is there some mental stuff we need to address? Like, what's happening here? So that's an interesting point. Other thought is a question. Would you ever take a job of someone that had your name?
And turned out to be a murderer?
Well, I mean, you don't know. You don't know.
You don't know. I don't know. I might. It depends on the job and the place. I don't know. He convinced himself to take it because he saw this need. This community, after this doctor got arrested, they had a small practice, but the doctors were spread thin and they had to go to other areas. So they didn't have consistent care. And that was important to him. He had also done a rotation in a psychiatric hospital. So he was also interested in that part. So I can see why it appealed to him. But I can also see that, like, if you were talking to a therapist and you said this, I feel like they would say that's a really unhealthy thing to do. Like, that's a really not good connection to make. Like, there's another job that's meant for you,
Yeah, and I'm not a superstitious person. I don't believe in, like, ghosts or the afterlife or anything, but something in me, like, it would be weird. I'm like, I feel like I would be inviting a horror movie of some kind to do that. Like, something is going to happen here.
Yeah.
Like, we're messing with forces we don't understand.
And he was, like, great with it. And then precipitating event that caused his, like, obsession to kick off was that a patient that was very, very fond of the first Dr. Gilmer said that he heard that there was something was going to happen and he was getting out in, like, 2 years. And this, like, spun Ben out. Like, what? I thought he was away for life, so this was never going to be an issue. So then he was like, should I be protecting my family? Like, is he going to like want his practice back? Like, what does that mean? So that's really kicks it off, and then starts this real, like, deep dive into kind of madness in a way.
Wow.
But yeah, it is. it's very powerful because it's written by him, by Dr. Ben Gilmer that went through it. It's a very weird, interesting look.
It would be interesting to get his family's perspective on as they watch him become more and more obsessed with this and what they're thinking about all this.
Yeah, and you don't get that a lot. You get little because you get it from him, so you can't really. It's his perception of what his wife was saying, and there are times where he's honest about the fact that she was like we've lost you. Where are you? Like you're not the same person. I mean, he had kids and stuff, and he took his kids to meet this guy at different times. Like that's I mean, you got some things going on. So it's and that's not a judgment by any means. It's just like you got in pretty deep.
Yeah, you sure did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Woo! That's all I have to say. It's a goodie. It's a doozy.
Oh boy.
It's a doozy.
Well, my pop culture pick has to do with murder.
Ooh. Murder?
It's called The After Party from Apple TV Plus.
Yeah.
Started earlier this year.
Okay.
Imagine this. It's the 15-year high school reunion, which is a weird...
Barf.
Yeah, exactly. All of that. For a group of people in Bay Area, California.
Okay.
And Xavier, played by Dave Franco, was a former nerd/loser. Now he's become an international pop star and a movie star.
Oh, boy.
And he's come back to lord it over. Okay. He arrives via helicopter, for example.
As all ballers do.
Yes. And he has an after party for a few select folks at his amazing cliffside house. And at the start of the show, he's found dead at the bottom of the cliff. So Detective Donner...
Helicopter accident? No. Okay.
Nope. Detective Donner, who is Tiffany Haddish... is convinced is convinced that it's murder.
Okay.
And she's going to talk to everyone at the after party. She says that everyone has their own version of events all the time, right? We have our own mind movie. So she wants to hear everyone's. So she and her partner, John Early, get to work. And one by one, she talks to the guests, and we get a different version of the night's events in the style of a different movie.
Okay.
So for Anik, who is Sam Richardson, there's a romantic comedy where he's trying to take a shot at his high school crush that just never happened. For Brett, who is Ike Barinholtz, tells an action movie where he's the star. He's trying to win back his family, protect his daughter, and lots of car chases.
Okay.
For Jasper, who is Ben Schwartz.
Oh, yes.
It's a musical where he's trying to get Xavier to bless his new track. Complete with 3 original songs, which I have in my head, by the way. Yeah.
Amazing.
Chelsea, Ilana Glazer, tells a psychological thriller where she's trying to get revenge on Xavier and someone is hunting her the whole time.
Oh.
And even at one point, we get Detective Donner's story told as a cop movie. Lots more characters, amazing comedic actors. It is hilarious. It is smart. It is twisted. My favorite is definitely the musical by Ben Schwartz because he's glorious.
Yeah.
As always.
As always is right.
And I chose for this theme because I think in some way all the characters are obsessed with what happened in high school.
Yeah.
There are key events that you'll hear about that everyone is convinced dictated the rest of their life. So whether it's the loves that got away, the rumors that were spread, the mistakes they made, they haven't been able to let go of that stuff, which makes them all suspects in the murder.
The murder.
The murder.
Murder.
So I think it's 8 episodes. And each one about a half hour.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a great ride. And like I said, the different stylistic aspects of it, so clever, so smart. And yeah, really enjoyed it.
Okay, good.
And you're going to get Ben Schwartz's voice in your head.
I love it.
In a musical.
I love the idea. That it's a musical for him. That's perfect.
Yeah, it's basically Jean-Ralphio.
Yeah.
Telling his high school story.
The greatest character ever created.
Ever.
Well, my pop culture this week, it needs a little explanation.
Okay.
So hang with me for a minute because I know that we're all done with this and we have been done with this, but I'm recommending Joe versus Carol on Peacock.
Oh.
Right. Okay. So as many people know, because Tiger King took over when pandemic first happened, right? And we were all like, what is this story? Now, I had listened to the podcast way before the Netflix documentary, so I had some background, but as we know, nothing like what that documentary showed or, series showed. So this is, it's a documentary style, but it's actors. It's John Cameron Mitchell plays Joe, which might be the single best piece of casting I've ever seen. And Kate McKinnon plays Carol.
Yes.
So knowing that, you kind of go in thinking maybe some of this is going to be funny. And there are some parts that Kate McKinnon, you can see some of her coming out. And there's tons of other terrific casting. But why I'm recommending it is not necessarily because it brings a ton of new information, but it reminded me a lot of the Pam and Tommy miniseries. And here's why. Because it did, in my opinion, the best job out of the podcast, the documentary, everything else, of telling Carol's side, which I don't feel we had gotten before. It tells a lot about her backstory, about how she grew up, about her first husband, about the husband she supposedly fed to a tiger, about all of these things, and truly what was at the heart of this battle for her, which was actually never about Joe. Joe made it about that. It was never about that. She is truly at her heart honest to God an animal activist and knows, at least based on this portrayal, knows that some of her stuff is taken as a joke and doesn't care because she feels like there's a bigger purpose. And I feel like a lot of that got lost in especially the Tiger King documentary. I didn't necessarily come away feeling like she was just a animal rights activist that really got screwed over.
No, it was the story of a certified weirdo hating another weirdo.
Right. Yeah. And there are some moments that you're like, oh, okay, it was an interesting way to portray it. You get a lot more of her and her husband now, Howard Baskin.
Kyle MacLachlan, right?
Yes. Their relationship. And that is very interesting to see. You see her daughter in this, her daughter's role, which we had never previously seen. And it had the same effect for me that it did with Pam and Tommy, where I thought, man, I really didn't do a good job of looking at that from all sides. I didn't ever occur to me that there was so much more to this person than this sort of joke persona, because Joe just takes over because everything he does seems impossible. Like, what? Did someone really say that? So you're attracted to the sideshow and you don't really ever look at what was happening over here and some of the amazing things that she was able to accomplish even before Tiger King was even a thing. That she did for the animals, and a lot of the things that got exploited for entertainment purposes actually had maybe more of an innocent explanation or made more sense in context, just no one ever gave the context for it before. So it's a really interesting for that. I think Kate McKinnon and John Cameron Mitchell are amazing. Excellent. Just such good acting. You'll know some of the story. I think some of the other stuff, there's a lot about his husband, Travis Maldonado, who is the one that shot himself. And there's kind of conspiracy about whether it was on purpose or an accident. But you get a little more insight into their relationship. So I think it's well done in a lot of ways. I could see it's received a lot of criticism, and that's why I said it was worth an explanation, because it's gotten like, hey, it's not telling anything new, or it doesn't seem like it's giving us anything different. And I guess what I feel like is it's giving us a different side. They really took the time to say, hey, no one's really told you about Carol's side of this, where she came from, what she was actually trying to do, and why this is kind of like became a good versus evil battle, and why he got so much publicity, because who could believe any of those things are happening?
All that showboating and peacocking.
And it does a good job of showing him too, like, is it really about Carol Baskin, or is it really about being infamous? Because there's a lot of decisions that you can see that he makes that you're like, that's if you were really after what you say you were, this might go down differently. So it's got another scene, just like in Pam and Tommy, there's that deposition scene where you're just like feel for her. There's another scene with Carol and Joe's trial where you just feel this gut wrench of like, this is awful. Like you're telling this woman who's been, stalked and threatened and basically blown up, even though it was a fake doll, that that none of that matters. And it reminded me a lot when I was working this week on notes about like how far we have to come in stalking laws and how far we have to come in understanding that those things are big red flags to further violence and murder.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we just don't recognize it as that, as such.
No, because it's still like it's just boys.
Yeah.
It's just boys being boys.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
You just, it wasn't you. It was a fake doll, and okay, but isn't that a threat?
Yeah.
So it's interesting for that. I mean, I'm a diehard Kate McKinnon fan, so just you should just watch it for the scene where she comes up with, "Hey, all you cool cats and kittens," because she's like trying 50 things and she's like, "That sounds dumb. I can't say that." And it also tells you why she decided to do that. Because it was a previous employee that stole her diaries and gave them to Joe, and he started reading them.
Oh my God.
So she started doing her thing as a response, like, "Hey, you're reading these diaries out of context that have been my lifelong journals." So imagine that. If you're a person that...
What a violation.
Yes. If you're a person that journals, you think that's a safe space. And that's what they use that sometimes as a technique in therapy. Tell you to write everything down.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a safe space. And someone stole that and then is using it as though you're advertising that, and you're not. You never meant that stuff to be out there. There's a lot of points where you're like, oh God, I did not recognize that as the gut punch it should have been.
Ugh. That's frustrating because, like, when we were talking about Pam and Tommy, it was like, oh, look at, how terrible we were 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And we're still doing it.
Yeah. We're still so easily distracted by a sideshow that we're not good at looking at the characters. And sometimes it's, I think, especially disappointing as female, viewers that we are missing the boat sometimes.
Absolutely.
Of being, I didn't ever think a second thought about it. I was like, that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And, you move on. But yeah, so I recommend it for that. I think it's an interesting retelling. Yes, maybe there's not new information, but, and obviously pick for this theme because, Joe, good Lord.
That's unhealthy, buddy.
Never going to give you up. Could be a theme song. He will not let it go. For sure.
I wonder if Rick Astley would appreciate us using this theme as, like, just bad behavior.
I hope
and
so.
Almost murder. I think he would, too.
I think at this point you should accept that that's a possibility.
Yeah.
What if the whole time he meant it that way and it got popular and he just had to pretend that it wasn't a stalking song?
No, it was just fun.
Yeah, so why'd you write this? I wrote it about the girl that broke up with me. They're like, no, you can't say that. You can't say that at the meeting. No. At the press conference, you just need to say that you love her so much.
Exactly.
And people will eat it up.
Pure love. Not stalking at all.
No, do not use the S word. You did not stalk anyone. Never happened. You're just in love.
Exactly. Yeah.
It just made me think of something. Two fairy tales just jumped to mind.
Oh.
Cinderella and Snow White, both stalkers, if you think about it.
All fairy tales are just...
He sought out that glass slipper. He was like, I got to find this lady.
Yeah. Didn't care if the lady wanted him.
No.
The lady was literally running away from him.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And then Snow White, he stalked all the way into a forest.
Yep.
Thought she was dead and kissed her anyway.
Yeah. There's a lot of kissing of almost corpses in fairy tales.
But corpses that they thought were corpses.
Exactly.
Because, it's not like he knew.
Yeah. So I'm just going to make out with this corpse. Yeah. Oh my God, I'm rewarded with a live woman.
Yeah.
And now that I've kissed her, she has to come with me.
Yeah. I mean, Beauty and the Beast. I used to really love that. And now you think about it, he just kept her in that castle.
Yeah.
That's not...
She was a hostage.
That's a hostage situation. Were the townspeople wrong? We hated them for coming.
Exactly.
To get him.
They were trying to rescue her.
And their leader, Gaston, not great, but wasn't wrong. I mean, you had a hostage situation.
Exactly.
Oof. And all these workers were hostages. And they had to be other things.
They did.
They had to be candlesticks.
They had to be candles and
teapots. And they had to sing. They had to
sing for their beast master at his disposal when he's trying to romance the hostage.
And look at how little he does. One time he comes down and growls and says, "Meet me in the courtyard." And then
oh, I'm in love.
You're amazing. And then he gets mad and storms off, and everybody's like, "Well, he tried." You gotta give him some credit.
He means
well. You gotta meet him where he's at.
He doesn't have all the manners.
I'm pretty sure he's not gonna rip you to shreds. You silly girl. What?
Yep, that's true.
Yeah, it's good stuff. All right. So
moral of the story is, if we stalk you, you won't see us coming because we are invisible.
Yes. Yeah. And also we're probably in the bathroom. So you probably won't see us.
Keep that in mind.
Yeah. Yep. We're only going to stalk you at places that have restrooms. So if you want to lose us.
Yeah. Listen, listeners, we're not going to stalk you. We're just going to keep giving you episodes every 2 weeks, which I guess could be considered stalking. But no, it's just, it's what we do.
It's there for you to take if you want. I am not showing up in your car pressing your podcast player and saying, listen.
We're not putting those headphones in your ears. We're not doing it.
We're not doing it.
We're giving you choice.
You have agency.
You do.
Yeah.
We're peacocking over here.
I'm a showboating, but
you have the choice.
You have the choice
to listen to us or not.
Whether to see the showboat.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't you want to see the showboat?
Yeah. I mean, don't be dumb. And as always, we'll be back in a couple weeks.
Yeah. And in the meantime,
happy reading.